Hello, I'm Isaac Chapman, and I wanted to discuss an issue with you today. I understand many of you may have been in the medical field for years, or perhaps you're a concerned mom. There is no audience too broad for health and awareness, though. The problem I want to address today is how the federal government must prioritize policies that encourage the consumption of natural, whole foods over processed foods to improve national health, even if that requires economic adjustments. America's rising rates of obesity and heart disease are a wake-up call. Our processed food diet is making us sick. I have personally spent thousands of hours with nutritionists, doctors, and trainers discussing exercise and diet for my 12-year football career. During that time, I learned that processed foods, often high in sugar, salt, unhealthy fats, directly contribute to these escalating health crises. On this screen here, you will see the climb in obesity from 2016 to 1996. As you can see, it's a pretty steady climb. Cross, to be clear, I'm not a medical student. I'm simply like anyone else in the audience that has noticed a negative trend, a trend that points to the dangers of ultra processed food. When processed food spreads, it leaves a trail of obesity. A study in Europe further proves this trend in a cross-sectional study. This study states cross-sectional studies associate consumption of ultra-processed food with obesity and related diseases. A recent ecological study conducted with nationally representative data from 19 European countries, including the UK, found a direct association between household availability of ultra-processed foods and prevalence of obesity. Unfortunately, obesity is only the most obvious side effect of ultra processed foods. Also known as UPF, UPF comes with many silent killers as well. Here on this graph, it demonstrates just how high in calorie these ultra processed foods are. The British Journal of Nutrition writes in this study, in conclusion, we reported for the first time in systematic review with meta-analysis the possible association between high UFP consumption, worse cardiometabolic risk profile, reported mainly by an increased risk of overweight, obesity, elevated waist circumference, reduced HDL cholesterol levels, an increased risk of metabolic syndrome, and greater risk of mortality, CVD, disease, and depression. It's not a secret. Processed foods are packed with unhealthy ingredients that almost seem poisonous. The government needs to step in and limit these foods to keep people healthy and lower medical costs. As Americans, it's our job to keep our government in check. This is why federal regulation of processed foods is vital to curb diet related diseases and secure a healthier, more sustainable future. This is a big call to action. The federal government has to limit these monopolies to ensure everyone, regardless of income, can access affordable, healthy choices. Don't be mistaken, the government should never overreach into American diets. However, this is a different topic. It's a government's role to protect its people, even if that means from corporations in America. Regardless of your political views on regulation, it's important to understand the reality of the situation. Our people are being exploited daily by food monopolies that dominate the market. So instead of providing a variety of unhealthy and healthy food, these companies simply make junk food cheap and the organic food expensive. This provides no middle ground for consumers. Now, don't be mistaken, the government should never overreach, but When a somewhat alternative appears that is healthy, it's quickly gobbled up by one of the few dominating monopolies in this food industry. The United States is supposed to have regulation to prevent these kind of monopolies, but government lobbying provides many loopholes to this. So, who cares about monopolization, right? America's capitalists after all. But this is the opposite of freedom. The lack of variety for any affordable, healthy options, it's damaging to our most vulnerable populations, really. According to the International Journal of Transitional Medicine, they report food insecurity is a problem in the United States that cuts across all ethnic divides. This statistic related to Black people and children are astounding, as they represent highly vulnerable populations. The risk factors exacerbated in the inability to afford healthy meals. So far, we have seen plenty of evidence that the United States is in big trouble. UPF is spreading, and we have seen no end in sight. This is because critics have been screaming the overdramatic words of government overreach. I understand that may be a patriotic instinct to think this way, and that's okay. But despite concerns regarding government overreach, the current loose FDA regulations are unacceptable. This means that federal limits on processed foods are justified by the urgent need to cut healthcare costs and improve general health. Some critics may say this limits or infringes upon individual freedom of choice. This is not correct. Lack of transparency and FDA loopholes infringe much more greatly than government intervention. If you think that things are just fine the way they are, look what these corporate authors are saying. In regards to this quote, it states, in relation to the rule, FSMA granted FDA authority to create rules affecting produce growers, procedures of human and animal food. This publication perfectly represents the disgust of these big corporations, as the author calls all of these FDA regulations government overreach. This perfectly categorizes these companies as corrupt. They see the current regulations as just too overbearing, but they think it's okay when our children have to pay the price with their health. Here in this picture, we see the different monopolies that own all the different food companies. To address the problem of unhealthy foods, we can implement transparent ingredient labels, promote nutritional education, and offer subsidies for healthier alternatives. The government needs to enforce transparent label laws instead of allowing companies to list the chemical compound to avoid transparency. We need to educate people on what's really healthy. For example, this study shows the importance of protein. Protein and other compounds can exert anabolic effects on skeletal muscle, particularly in conjunction with efficiency of twice daily consumption of protein-based multi-ingredient nutritional supplement to increase strength and lean mass independent of in combination with exercise in healthy older men. This is the importance of nutritional education in America. TikTok may plant diets in children's heads that are full of plant-based fiber instead of protein. It is very important that we do implement food education into our school systems. In conclusion, I want to leave you with a thought. Why not push for our well-being the way we push against each other? If we do that, no monopoly stands a chance. We must have a prosperous and a healthy future. Thank you.